Hydrosonics Audio. Precision sound. Every time.
All right, I'm right here with Coach Paul, and we're going to talk about fitness. We're going to talk about goals. We're talking about achieving these goals and what it takes to be successful. And there's nobody better to say it than the man himself. Here we go, Coach Paul. Echoes of society. We're all formerly incarcerated or justice impacted, and we're just, each one teach one. The same things that got us out of prison and got us through the tough situations. Is each of us learning from each other. And I invited you here today to inspire others, man, because you inspire me. You're doing a great job. And, please tell everybody about it, man.
Absolutely, Jesse. So yeah, first off, thanks for having me on the show, man. I love that you have a show that is direct towards the, system impacted individuals, right? I think there's a lot of people that are impacted, whether they've done time, whether they have a family member that's done time. There's a lot of people that are impacted by the system that don't have an open voice, and just a little background so we can tie into the audience and maybe make some connections with those listening to the podcast. Like a lot of people that have been incarcerated, I didn't grow up in a nice household. I didn't grow up in a good neighborhood. My mom was on drugs. My mom struggled with drug addiction for most of my life. My dad was verbally and physically abusive. By the time I was 15, I was hooked on drugs myself. Started hanging out with the wrong crowd. I started going in and out of juvenile hall. So my incarceration started young. 15 years old, I started, doing time. So, 15 years old, in and out of juvenile hall, boys' homes, even mental hospitals, because I was dealing with, combination of mental health issues, but also drugs will make you go crazy, especially during a developmental time of my life. Homeless by the time I was 16, high school dropout by 17. Man, my youth years weren't good, but the crazy thing is, I spent a lot of my teen years incarcerated and it became a normal thing for me. So by the time I hit 18, I started going to adult jail. Like it was like, all right, I'm going to jail for 6 months, whatever. Yep. Right. 19, I went to prison for the first time, and by now I was pretty much institutionalized anyways. By now I'd already spent more time incarcerated, more birthdays incarcerated than I had spent actually free. And it was just normal part of my life. So now I'm going to prison and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to prison. Like whatever, not a big deal, Yeah. So the first time I went to prison, I was sentenced to 3 years at the halftime. I did 19 months on that, got out. Now this is the first time I kind of was like, ooh, I think maybe I want to make some changes in my life, right? But I never actually done any work on myself, and you talked about goals at the beginning of this conversation, and I didn't have no goals for myself. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life.
Yeah.
I got out, I was like, all right, cool. Let's check some boxes. Get a job. Cool. I got a little BS job with Sprint, I was like, all right, cool. Get a girlfriend. Oh, got me a little girlfriend. She had a son. So cool. I'm playing stepdaddy now. Then I was like, all right, go to school, So I enrolled in school, City College. I'm starting to take a couple classes in school. And it was just like, okay, I checked off these boxes that were like societal norms, the things that like growing up, I didn't think were important, like going to college, having a stable relationship with a woman, having a job. Like I didn't really do that growing up in my teen years. So here I am like, oh, I did these few things out of prison. I'm doing good. I'm doing well. But I hadn't actually done any work on myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually work on myself. You talked about, a little bit earlier, before we started the show, emotional intelligence. And I hadn't even tapped into that. I didn't even know what that was at the time.
Yeah.
And so, over time, to fast forward the story, I only made it 9 months, man. Made it 9 months and I became that California recidivism statistic, 2 out of 3 people are going to go back to prison. And I became one of those people, right? I was 22.
None of those things were fulfilling.
Yeah.
They hadn't hit that core of your heart yet, but I know you're getting there.
I didn't have a purpose, right?
Exactly.
I was checking boxes, right? I was checking boxes. And here's the thing. I love that you bring that up because I feel like a lot of people in general are just checking boxes.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be people that are system impacted. It doesn't have to be people that have been incarcerated. A lot of people in life are just checking boxes. They haven't found a purpose. They haven't found a reason. They haven't found yes, I get to get up in the morning and do this because it's so important to me.
Yeah.
And because of that, because of not having a purpose, I was checking those boxes. I had a job. I had a girlfriend. I was going to school, blah, 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 blah. None of that was relevant to the purpose that I needed to be, that would wake me up in the morning and give me a reason to wake up and push myself and challenge myself. And so at 22 years old, I was back in that same lifestyle, doing those same things I was doing because that's not all I knew for most of my life. And I ended up committing a crime that had me looking at 27 years in prison, right?
Yep.
I was looking at 27 years in prison. I was looking at 3 strikes. Mind you, I didn't have any prior strikes, so they couldn't actually strike me out with the 3-strike law, but they could give me 3 strikes, which means I was, one small mistake, I was washed.
Yep.
And, I got fortunate, man. I beat a few, I took it to trial. I beat a few of the charges that they had against me. I ended up with only 2 strikes, which I'm still 2 violent strikes. They can still strike me out if I fuck up again.
Yep.
And I ended up getting sentenced to 10 years, right? And, 10 years, 85% minus the 6 months in county. I should have done 9 years and I did 1 month over 10 years. And the reason being is because while I was incarcerated, I couldn't behave myself. I still hadn't found that purpose and I was still involved in all the nonsense, right? I had spent most of my life incarcerated anyways. So here I was, 10 years in prison. Okay, whatever. This has been my life anyways. I'm just now chunking it all together. At that point, I'd probably done, 6 or 7 years of incarceration anyways in what they call the installment plan, a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to slap it all together one big woo-wop,
I always try to tell people, like, when you're juvenile, because similar youth authority coming up through the system, it's like, even when I wasn't incarcerated, when I was on the street, whether it was probation or parole, I'm just a day away from, I'm getting locked up today. I'm doing everything I can, hustling. I'm up all night. I'm running the streets. Whatever it was, it could all end today, and that thinking, muted or stalled any kind of progress because I can't focus on things. That's not on me. You know what I mean? So, like you said, even though, say you spent so many years incarcerated, the time on the street is like really on pause, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. Your life's on pause, and, you meet guys who are lifers who've been locked up the whole time, and you see them later on in life, they're like, the hell, you got out. Yeah, but you weren't really free. Like you said, mentally, you hadn't hit that. Now, Malcolm X said this, like somebody talked about him getting locked up, and wasn't that a travesty? He goes, no. He goes, if I was to go back to prison today, that would be a travesty. He goes, that taught me what I needed to learn to get where I'm at. And that's what I hear you saying,
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense, because even like when I think about it, the brackets of alleged freedom, right? Like I was physically free, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally, I was not free.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time. Like I talk to people about this all the time. Like I was a possession of the state of California since I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't until, I got out this last time at 33. I was on parole for like 2.5 years. So it wasn't until I was 36 years old, right? So that's 15 to 36 is what? 21 years. 21 years I was I was a possession of the state of California. I was not a free human being for 21 years. They owned me. They told me everything I could or couldn't do. And when I chose not to do what they said, they locked me back up. And then they let me out for a little bit, follow my rules, and I'd follow them for a little bit, and then I'd go back to what I knew, because that's all I knew, right? And it wasn't until doing these 10 years, and once again, I was in there for 10 years, but I didn't change right away. It wasn't like, I got 10 years in prison, I'm going to change my life, find God, or whatever it might be. Like some people that happens, that wasn't my story. I was in there young, 22 years old. I was trying to make a name for myself. I wanted to be known. Right? Yeah. Now I'm doing the same thing, but on a positive track, Yeah. And there I was on a negative track. Like I wanted to be known for being this tough guy. And now I'm like, I want to be known for like changing lives and transforming people's lives. Like that's what I want to be known for. That's what I'm going to be known for. That's what I am known for.
Yep.
And it took me, like we're not going to talk about like the whole prison life because most of the people probably listening to this podcast know what prison is like. It's not. But man, I did a little bit over 10 years, and it took me 9 years to finally say I'm done. To finally have that aha moment where I was just like, this is stupid. Like, what am I doing? Like, this doesn't even make sense to keep living like this, you know?
Yeah.
And, 9 years in, I woke up and was like, I'm cool. I don't want this.
Yeah.
And I made it a conscious decision to change.
I think a lot of people, like, for context, like if they don't know, say, there's audience members who want to understand and they want to figure things out and they're like, well, how is this guy who spent all this time in prison, covered in tattoos? How does he have his own gym? How is he rocking it? How is he killing it on social media? How is he so energized? How can he be so upbeat when he's been through so much? And I think for those people, who, everybody can be inspired by somebody. Nelson Mandela spent, I don't know how much time in prison, and he's known around the world, for his thoughts, and what he stuck to, his morals and his principles. And, I think for people who don't understand, or they may not understand, those morals and principles, that you were taught when you were a young person, and you're getting incarcerated, the value system, like before social media, your name, and you say, I wanted to be known. So, people on the outside may not know how your name's going to ring and echo in the hallways from different juvenile halls, different YAs, different prisons. When you get somewhere, they're like, hey, so-and-so? Hey, you heard about what he did? It's like it's a bigger than life. You know what I mean? The ego and the reputation. They talk about, oh, your name's ringing out here. Like, you literally from cell to cell sometimes can hear somebody's name being spoken. And it is definitely on the yard. And definitely when you get out there and it's like, well, I'm going to either match that or I'm going to outdo that. You know what I mean? Same thing in sports. So-and-so got 4 touchdowns this weekend. What? Man, I'm going to get 5. It's the exact same thing for, like I said, for those who may not understand. But that achiever inside of you, the guy, that goal, those were goals, right? And you set out to achieve those. Like, and you said, at this point, the 9-year mark, you were like, what am I doing? It's kind of like, biblically, I remember Paul, he wrote something about like running the good race, right? Like, everything we do here on earth is going to crumble. It's going to melt away. The wreath, like in the Roman gladiator days, they were doing the Olympics basically, and they would say the wreath was made of like vegetables and different types of like vines, and that would wither. And he was like, don't put your stock in these things because they're really going to just deteriorate and they're not going to last. Store your riches in heaven because that is going to last forever. And it sounds like you hit that moment where these goals and these prisons and these things, like, what am I doing? Like, this isn't going to last. This isn't gaining me really anything. And I want to leave a mark on this earth that is going to last and is going to be forever. And I want to impact people in a positive way. I'm tired of impacting people in a negative way. And like, did you have that, like you say, in that aha moment, like, was it just an accumulation of things not working out? Or did you have somebody inspire you? Was there a word or a counselor or somebody that gave you this inspiration to go, you know what? I can choose this path. Or I know we work out in prison, everybody works out. So like, there's got to be something to where, you're doing burpees and it's a mandatory program to, I'm going to make this my lifestyle, which it really is your lifestyle if you think about it. It's transferable skills, we call it.
Absolutely. So, basically, because I was sentenced to 10 years, I should have done 9 years off of it. I was not behaving while I was in there, which means I had extended my stay. I got a lot of 115, some write-ups and such, fights, been to the hole a few times, got caught with drugs, like just all the nonsense. And so my release date came and left. Right? I was supposed to get out, but I had extended myself for an extra year and a half, and I was just like sitting there, man. I got hooked on heroin. I was strung out. I was burning people. People were tired of my nonsense. My own homies were about to get rid of me. Like, they were just like, it was just a mess, bro. My whole life was a mess. And honestly, like, man, 5 years into those 10 years, I lost my mom. And when I lost my mom, bro, like, I just quit caring. I just gave up.
Yeah.
And so it took me like 4 years after that to stop using her death as an excuse and start using her life as a reason to push myself in a positive manner. Right? And so the month of August 2017 was like my transitional month, and it was like back-to-back things, like, my release date passed me by, and then I was getting in some trouble with my people. and I was like, running out of drugs and nobody would give me nothing no more because my numbers were bad, my money was bad. Like, it was just like really a tough month for me, man. But it was an eye-opening month as well. And it was one of those moments where like I had that opportunity, and like they give us these fake mirrors in there, and it's not even a mirror. It's just a piece of stainless steel. And I was like looking at that stainless steel and like my eyes were all black like a raccoon and my cheeks were all sunken in. And I had this long hair, but I wasn't taking care of it. It was all raggedy and I looked like I was like 60, bro. I was like shot out. And I was just like, what the hell, bro? Like, that ain't you,
Yeah.
And so I just made a decision right there. August 30th, 2017 was my life-changing decision, Jesse. I said, I'm going to do something different, man. And so I walked up to this guy in the yard that I knew that honestly at the time I didn't like, right? And the reason I didn't like him is because now I've done some work on myself now. And I realized today that I didn't like him because I was jealous of him.
Mm-hmm.
See, this guy, his name is Fernando. I always mention him. Anytime I'm on a podcast, any opportunity I have, I talk about Fernando because he saved my life.
Yeah.
And it's like, I walked up to Fernando and the reason I didn't like Fernando is because, man, Fernando went to school. He went to church. He went to AA, NA. He went to the substance abuse classes. He went to this little construction class. Like, he did all these positive things.
Yep.
The guy was on the opposite side of the yard doing all these negative things. And so I would see Fernando doing all this stuff and I didn't like him because he wasn't doing the same things I was doing. Like, someone would talk shit to Fernando and he'd be like, all right, whatever. Meanwhile, someone talks shit to me and I'm like, well, we can go fight. Like, we can, we can throw hands. I'm not tripping,
Yep.
Or like, Fernando wouldn't hustle. He'd like, like he didn't live the way I was living in there. And so when I walked up to Fernando and I was like, yo, Fernando, bro, like, I need your help. He was like, I got you, homie. What's up?
Straight up.
No, and he knew I didn't like him. That's the crazy part. Like, he knew I didn't like him. Here. He just wanted to help me,
Yep.
And I was like, Fernando, man, I need some help. He goes, I got you. I said, man, I want to stop getting high, man. I want to change. I want to do better. He's like, I got you. And he took me with him to a meeting that night. And I just like, man, I've worked with a lot of coaches in my life now that I've changed my life. I mean, I 100% believe in mentorship and paying people to help you get to the next level. Since the moment I started my business, I have not had someone that I'm paying to help me grow as a human being in some way, shape, or form. Business coaching, fitness coaching, speaker coaching, book writing coaching, all of that. Like, I'm paying people to teach me these skill sets so that I can become this phenomenal human being that I know I was meant to be and I can impact millions of people's lives.
Yeah.
So I call him my first coach, my first mentor. But all these mentors and these coaches that I've paid for, that I know and I've worked with, they've all said the same thing in one way, shape, or form. Success leaves clues. Probably one of my favorite sayings. Success leaves clues. And what that means is someone's successful in any way, shape, or form in their life, they are leaving clues on how they got there.
Yeah.
Do what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, rich people didn't get rich on accident. They did what other people are doing.
Yep.
I'm not as ripped as I am right now on accident. Like, I'm like less than 3 weeks out from a bodybuilding show, and I'm incredibly cut up right now and getting more and more cut up every single day in preparation for this show where I'm going to be on stage showing off my physique. And I didn't get here on accident. I got here because someone that's done it before me is telling me how to do it and telling me what worked for them. And because it works for them, I'm following what they say and it's working for me. And so I saw Fernando being successful and I saw him as someone that was going to get out of prison and never come back. And I wanted that.
Yeah.
I asked for his help. He offered it. And I followed him around the yard from then on out and did everything that motherfucker did. Like, whatever Fernando did, I was doing it.
Yep.
I even went to church, man. And, I'm not a religious person. I do not have any religious belief system. I consider myself spiritual.
Yep.
Right? I have a higher power. My higher power is my mom, who passed away while I was in prison. She is my guiding light. I talk to her multiple times a day. Her She's in my logo for my gym. She's tattooed on me. Like, she's a huge part of what I do on a daily basis. But I even went to church because Fernando went to church. And although I don't 100% believe the belief systems of the organized religion, I believe in the concepts that were being discussed.
Yeah.
Right? And I believed in the positivity that was being promoted. And I took pieces of that and put it in my heart and utilized it to grow. And so I spent my last year of incarceration dialing it in. You see, I'd been building discipline by programming with the people that I program in prison, right? We got to get up at a certain time. We got to roll our mattress up. We got to go to yard. We got to go to chow. We got to hit this many burpees a day. We got to do this. Boom, 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 boom. That's discipline. Even when I was struggling with drug addiction and anger and desperation and all these things I was going through, I still had this level of discipline that I was created because it was part of the program structure that I had to follow in prison. And so I took that discipline and I switched it over to these positive aspects that I was participating in these groups and these classes and college courses and everything. And I just took that discipline and I use it out here on the streets now. And because I use it out here on the streets now, man, it's crazy how many people are not disciplined out here, bro. Like, it is crazy.
Yeah.
You know? And I tell people all the time, like, right now is the easiest time to be successful. It's the easiest time to be successful because there's a lot of lazy people out here in America. Like, Americans are lazy, bro. So it's so easy to win right now. You know, anyone coming out of prison, anyone listening to this, if you were able to get up every single morning and turn your light on and roll your mattress up and hit your burpees and go to chow and go to school and go to yard, if you could do that shit and wash dishes for 10 cents an hour, if you could do that in prison, you could be a billionaire out here on the streets because most human beings out here ain't doing nothing, man.
Yep.
You know? And so I just took that idea of discipline and I've just been implementing it into my life and building this amazing life for myself, man.
You know, if a guy could feel like on top of the world and be King Hustle when he comes back with 20 pieces of chicken strapped to his thighs and under his arms, you know what I mean? You can get 20 pieces of chicken out here, bro. There, you know what I mean? You could go down to the store and buy them right now. You know what I mean? But there's a lot more to life than just hustling up some chicken and saran wrapping it to your legs. You know, there's a whole lot more going on out here.
You know, yeah.
And you know, like you said, well, before we started talking, you were talking about bodybuilding, right?
Yeah.
Some of the sacrifices you're making, calories, right? You know, we were saying like, hey, I'm in a calorie deficit, so, you know, I might not be as sharp as I want to be. But, you know, during the conversation, something about neurotransmitters and synapses and thought process, and we start talking about what you're passionate about, you're firing on all cylinders. You know what I mean? And I'm a firm believer in that connection, you know, and the same energy that we feel and we're having in this interaction now, people who are watching this, they're tuned in, it's all vibrations. You know what I mean? They're going to absorb all that. They're going to have that glow, like whatever purpose they have. This is what I believe firmly is that when you have a true, genuine connection and people are being honest and transparent, there's a glow, a vibration. It will hit the back of their head. And I believe that God, like through his spirit, like connection to us, awakens their inspiration, their purpose in them. You know what I mean? It's like playing a video, like a 1 minute TikTok or something. They'll see, oh, I should apply for that job. Or you know what? I do have that yoga mat. I'm going to bust that out with my dumbbells and I'm going to do my little thing today. Whatever it is, because the laziness we're talking about is a lot of what I've found just in the past few years. It's a lot of absorption. It's a lot of intake. You know, it's a lot of scrolling. It's a lot of videos. It's a lot of sitting. It's a lot of, oh, I was going to do this, but oh, I should have done that. But it's not that they don't have goals. It's not that they don't have a drive. Like it hasn't surfaced yet. You know what I mean? It hasn't hit that burning point that it's on the back burner, but it hasn't started boiling yet. And, you know, and what we're talking about, as far as you describing, you were at a boiling point. You know what I mean? Everything that was going on, nothing was working out. Everything's coming to an end here soon. And I got to do something about it. And, you know, I commend you for that, man. It's so good to have conversations like this out here. It's always so sad for me when I would meet somebody in there who has potential. You know what I mean? Is a good dude, smart, brilliant, and they tell you their story and your heart goes out to them and you don't even want to ask, bro, do you got a date? Like, are you getting out? You know, sometimes they don't, you know. I had one of my best sellies, man. His name is Billy Ray. He kind of reminded me of what was the guy's name you were talking about a minute ago? Fernando,
yeah.
Billy Ray was like a Fernando to me. He was L-walked, and he was just a really good dude. And I was having cell fights with my cellie damn near sometimes every day. Neither one of us wanted to move out. You were just, you know what I mean? We're neither one wanted to give in to the other. And Billy Ray, his cellie paroled one day, and he pulled me over. We were leaving PIA, and he was like, "Hey, I need somebody I could trust in my cell. I know you and your cellie ain't getting along." He goes, "I don't want you to feel any way about it." He goes, "But I want you over here with me." He goes, "It's got nothing to do with what you guys got going on." He goes, "I just need somebody I could trust." And you know, I could kind of read into what he was saying. I could understand what he was saying. But, you know, in the long run, I just mimicked and followed pretty much all of his behavior characteristics. When he talked to his wife, he would say, "Hey, beautiful, I love you. Have a good night." And I was like, here's this dude, you know what I mean, doing life on top of life, you know what I mean, forever. And he's got the best attitude. He'd come back from visiting so excited to see his wife. He was just so positive. And then, like, matter of fact, when it came to communicating or just doing anything, he would always be like almost military. You know, there's something like very attractive about having your hair combed a certain way, walking with your shoulders back. People trust you. They respect you. They listen to your word. They're not talking over you. I said, there's something about that. There's a magical quality that I want, you know. And I firmly to this day, like, I don't know if he got out yet because he was 19 when he committed his offense, that got him the LWAP. But I heard some of those guys are going to get dates or something. So I have hope for him. And, he's a really good dude, man. So I do appreciate what you're saying about emulating somebody. There's got to be somebody and something. And also the spiritual principles of AA, NA, even though they don't slap like the religious stuff or a certain name or whatever, it is all intended to, like, you know, you said, get us outside of our own head. There's something bigger than me. And when you have hope and like a guiding light or a guardian angel, however, you know, it is spoken to you, I believe 100% in that, because without that, without the hope, without the light, without the love, we are nothing but what we used to be, you know. And you know, I think there's a biblical reference. And I'm not trying to like shove it down anybody's throat, but it says, you know, when I was a child, I thought like a child. You know what I mean? I acted like a child. I spoke like a child. You know what I mean? And now that I'm a man, I act like this, I think like this, and I speak like this. So if there's anybody who's, you know, 40 or above and they can't cite one single thing that's different from when they were in their 20s, they haven't moved forward at all. And that's some of the saddest stuff. I'd see guys in there 50 something years old, still slamming dope, fighting, going the hole, getting drunk, acting ignorant. I'm like, man, what the hell are you doing? And, it's not that I wanted to be that way. I wanted to be like the legends, you know what I mean? The stories I heard. And when I fell short and I wasn't that, and my most humiliating moments, thankfully for God, like I said, like I got baptized and in a spiritual way. So I understand what you're saying. Like I wasn't big into church. I wasn't, you know, I've read the Bible, I don't know how many times, but I was listening to a pastor on the radio and he was talking about what we choose. Like you could say the universe, you could say God, but like what we're choosing, we're going to get more of. And it's very apparent with apps nowadays. When you watch an app for, you know, a video for a few seconds, the algorithm goes, this is what he likes. I'm going to send him some more of this. And that's what my life was like. You know what I mean? With drugs and everything deplorable. It just kept coming and coming and coming. And I just wanted to swim out of it. It was like trying to climb out of a septic tank, man. And, anyway, one of the pivotal moments was same thing, heroin, meth, strung out. I couldn't even do 10 push-ups. And I couldn't understand the connection between physical exercise, my mental health, my emotional health, and the substances that I'm taking. Whereas now, I'm taking L-theanine, I take protein, amino acids, I'm on magnesium at night, ashwagandha at night, I take a multivitamin in the morning. I count the cups of milk and how many grams of protein are in each one. I overdo it with calories. You know, I've been doing some HIIT training, and I didn't know that the central nervous system gets taxed when I'm maxing out. And I'm trying to max out every day, wonder why isn't my max going up? How come I can't hit more? I'm hitting less, and I'm using ChatGPT. You know, and it's like we all need a coach, we all need help. And I've been tearing apart ChatGPT to find out a perfect workout program, and I'm barely figuring that out now. Like I can't max out every day. I got to go less. proper form. And then the rep range has got to be between like 10 or 12 for that muscle to really, and like I said, you know, you were talking about earlier, and as everybody can see, you're in a peak physical condition, man. And, you know, the sacrifice of the diet is what I started on this point was, for people who, like you say, want to lose weight, they want to look like a better version of themselves. They're carrying a few extra pounds. We got about 5 minutes left. If we have to, bro, we could do a part two. We could catch up after your show. You know, we could give it a month or so if you want, and see how you're feeling then, and see how things went, and talk more about it. But how does that start in the brain, and how does that physically feel like for on the emotional intelligence part when you're sitting in a despair of like, I got to eat something. Sometimes I know when I'm on a diet, like if I'm fasting, I feel like I'm gonna die. Like I'll be like, I need to eat. There's a panic mode that hits in my brain that says, you better eat something. You're not gonna make it. Especially when it's hot. I live in the valley. It's hotter than hell. Sometimes I do get nauseous. Like, how do people, or how do you get through that, preparing for a show, which is gonna be extremely strenuous?
I mean, for me, the biggest thing is being attached to my why, right? Like, why am I doing this? Why is this important? And also, like, back to the idea of purpose. Okay. So my goal in life is to impact millions of lives. That's my purpose, to use my story, to use my journey to impact millions of people. Well, I'm not going to be able to impact millions of people if I'm not consistently pushing myself to the next level. See, back to the idea of like our society, most people are content with where they're at. They're happy with their minimum wage job and their, you know, somewhat decent relationship and their dad bod or whatever. Like, and once you're content there, you have no ability to overcome or get further in life. Whereas me, I'm like, yeah, I did 10 years in prison and I was raised in poverty, but I will be a millionaire and I will be in the best shape of my life, and I already own a beautiful house and I have a beautiful family, and I will continue to give them everything I have to make sure that my two stepsons never know the life that I once lived. They will never need to sell drugs to buy the things they want. I just buy it for them. Like, they'll never know what it's like to be obese or struggle with diabetes or any type of diseases that are caused from unhealthy habits, because we don't have unhealthy habits in our household, right? So I'm creating the best, most elite version of myself, and that takes constant effort. I am probably in the top 2% in physiques in the world. Like right now, my body fat percent is incredibly low. Most people will never even put the effort to get their body fat this low, and I'm aiming to get lower before my show, right? And so what happens, so I look at it, is I like to put myself in situations that put me in the top percentage of Americans, right? Or people in general. Like last year, I ran a marathon. Only like 0.01% of people have ever ran marathons. This year, I'm doing a bodybuilding show. Only 0.005% of people have ever done and completed a bodybuilding show. So I'm putting myself in this top echelon of people, right? And the craziest thing, I was talking to my girlfriend about this the other day, it's because I've also been the lowest echelon of people. I've been a homeless, drug addicted criminal, scum of the earth in most people's eyes. I've been that person. Right? And now I'm striving to be the complete opposite on the higher level, like become a millionaire, impact millions of lives, do these high level elite efforts to challenge and push myself, because now I'm showing this huge potential of a gap that's possible. And then I can say, okay, so you've never been homeless, you've never been on drugs, and you've never gone to prison. Why the fuck can't you do this?
Yep.
I can do it. If people like me can do it, others can do it as well. And so what I'm doing is I'm showing this huge, how much harder it was for me to get here. Why can't you do it? And the goal is to use that to impact more people and show people, hey, you don't have to do a bodybuilding show. I just did a post for my, on Facebook or Instagram, Facebook, and also to my clients today. And I basically told them like, hey, you don't have to do a bodybuilding show. You don't have to get, 2%, 3% body fat. You don't have to, go on stage and have every muscle rippling, but you do have to get yourself to the best place possible from where you are now. And if you would like to do that, here's how you do it.
Where can people find you at? Is there a link, or is there something they could type in, a .com or something?
Instagram, the_coach_Paul. That's THE_coach_Paul. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. It's all the same on all three channels. Come find me there.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much, Coach Paul. I appreciate your time and your energy, and you're an amazing human being, man. And I'm very appreciative and thankful for not only the time you spent here, but for the work you put in to become who you are.